here is the host of Jeopardy, Alex Trebek.
Very much, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of all of us, welcome to America's favorite answer and question game, Jeopardy!
Welcome back to Disney Marvels for a week of November 15th, 2020. This is episode 109. Disney Marvels, the show about Disney, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Muppets, Pixar, 20th Century, the parks, and much, much more. If it has to do with Disney, it's fair game. I'm your host, Matthew Graken. So, I put a poll out there asking you guys what you thought of the current season of The Mandalorian. Season 2 of The Mandalorian. 50% of you said it was amazing. 10% said it was good. The one that shocked me, though, a little bit was that 40% said you weren't quite sure yet. You weren't sure yet on how this season was going. Now, this was after... Well, no, I guess episode 3 had played at this point. Episode 3 had played at this point, which I will be talking to... we'll be talking this week about on the show. But nobody said it was No one are disliking it. Some of you, just the jury's still out on, which makes sense. It's early. But most of you seem to really be enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. And I'll bring you more discussions about it as the show goes on. We are almost halfway through. Isn't that scary? And, yeah. So, got some good stuff going on there. And I would be amiss not to mention that it's Mickey's birthday. Actually, today, the day the episode drops. Happy birthday, Mickey and Minnie, and many, many more. We'll be back after these brief messages from our friends and sponsors.
Hey Matthew, Jim Hill here. I do the Marvelous Disney podcast with Aaron Adams over at the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. I know, very humble sounding name. Anyway, I really enjoy what you've been doing over on the Disney Marvels podcast, but as you probably already noticed, the Marvel Us Disney and the Disney Marvels podcast names are very, very similar, which is why I imagine I keep getting mail for you. That's actually why I'm calling today. I wanted to know what you'd like me to do with all of these Yankee Candle catalogs, so please get back to me. And keep up the great work with the Disney Marvels podcast.
Thank you for those kind words, Jim. And make sure to check out Jim Hill on the Marvel Us Disney podcast with Aaron Adams to find out all sorts of wonderful things about Disney, well, Marvel, particularly what's going on with them. And Jim, those catalogs, I'll make sure to give you the forwarding address. And unless if you want to order something, go right ahead. And once again, make sure to check out Marvel Us Disney with Jim Hill and Aaron Adams wherever you find or listen to your podcasts. And now, on with the show.
Oh, the earth is filled with beauty, and it's gathered all together in the form and face and dainty grace of a pretty Irish girl.
As everyone says, it's 2020. So what does that mean? It means, well, things just keep happening. Either good or most likely not good. With just the backlog of episodes and everything that I've been recording, I need to catch up on some stuff. And to help me catch up with everything, I brought in a man who was a genius and a scholar, but then he had to leave. So I got somebody else to go.
Saw that coming.
He went over the episode list and then realized who he was working with and ran away. So I pulled in someone that unfortunately has not been on this show for way too long. Matt Leonard is back in the studios with us, well, on his end of the screen, because, well, it is 2020, and we do quarantine whenever we're doing these episodes because the government told us we have to spend 14 days away from each other whenever, because podcasting is a dangerous aspect.
Yeah, but so, you and I were told to stay away from each other long before the quarantine started. But
well, this is true.
It's safer for everybody if you and I were separated somehow.
Yes, our job tried to do that many times, and it never worked out the best for anybody. But Matt, yeah, welcome back. It's been too long since we've had you on the show.
It has.
Especially
2020.
Just the two of us.
Just the two of us, yeah. It's a very intimate show tonight.
Yeah, last time we had a couple of puppeteers with us. This one's got we got a number of ends to tie up. Some good, some bad, and some sad.
Yeah. So what do you want to talk about first?
Let's go chronologically. Let's talk about Sean Connery.
Let's talk about Sir Connery.
Yeah. Very sad news, but you know what? 90 years old.
And what a life he had. What a career.
Yeah. Born August 25th, 1930, passed October 31st this year, so 90 years old. Scottish guy, born Fountain Bridge, Edinburgh. His mother was the cleaning lady. Steve Martin reference there, and his father a factory worker.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. What year was he knighted? Was it 90?
Is a good question. You know what? I have to say I haven't been that diligent in my research on these things today.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
We should. These are the kinds of things we should talk about before the show.
If I haven't been so busy trying to keep up with what's going on my work situation, I would keep up the.
Instead, it's all the nonsense that I've been. Sorry.
Sean Connery was knighted. Was knighted by the Queen, 5th of July, 2000.
2000, really? I thought it was earlier.
I could have sworn it was earlier than that.
Yeah, I thought it was like 95 at least.
Yeah, ceremony at Holyrood Palace in Edinburgh, the 5th of July of 2000. Yeah, wow. He only had the one son too.
He only had one son?
Neil. No, Neil was his brother, Jason.
Oh, I didn't even know he had children. I'm not surprised.
That's who released it to the press too.
So sorry, we're wandering a bit. James Bond.
Yeah. Well, before Bond, he actually worked. One of his first big roles in film was through Disney with Darby O'Gill and the Little People, where you will have Sean Connery singing.
That's right.
And then just a couple years later, he was tapped for the role as the first James Bond. James Bond. And then it was all downhill from there.
Yeah.
I mean, you never catch a break.
Yeah. And then he was. He had a whole bunch. He was what was that movie with Randy Quaid? Dragonheart.
Dragonheart. Yep.
Where he was the voice of the dragon. I remember going to see that in the theaters. And then League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which we probably shouldn't talk about. The Avengers. Not Captain America and Iron Man Avengers, but the 90, I think it was 97, 98, where he did the one with it's the British spy show Avengers.
Yeah,
it was a film based on that with Ray Liotta and Uma Thurman. Uma Thurman was Emma Peel, and Ray Liotta Ray Fiennes. Ray Fiennes, yes. Ralph Fiennes.
Ralph.
I'll get this.
Voldemort.
Gosh, why do you have me on this show? Oh, sorry.
Because the ratings love you. You're very popular in England.
I'm sure. Ralph Fiennes and Uma Thurman, and then Sean Connery, which is another Sean Connery movie we probably shouldn't talk about because that's. Have you seen it?
I've seen the originals.
Yeah. Okay. I
haven't seen the modern. cinematic
My
take on.
my now wife, she wasn't my wife. We were dating at the time, but we went because we were in college. Boy, this sentence was terrible. Not as bad as the movie though. We went and saw that. Or I remember going to see that at a theater here in Connecticut back in college, and we both just walked out, and it was probably one of the most painful 90 minutes of film we had ever sat through. It was truly awful. It was not a high point in Mr. Connery's careers. But so let's talk about, rather than talk, now that I've mentioned all of the two horrible movies that he made, which were Avengers and then League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which was also pretty terrible. Let's talk about, actually, can we talk about one of my favorite Sean Connery roles?
Which one would that be?
That would be India. That would be Henry Jones Sr., which was my introduction to. That was, I think, the first Sean Connery movie that I ever saw, and absolutely,
I got into Sean Connery on the later end. Not even The Rock.
Yeah. And I absolutely fell in love with him in that movie because he's so everything in that movie. He's so, I mean, there's a tenderness and a warmth to Henry. He does his comedy in that is just impeccable. His timing in that is impeccable timing. Very funny lines, very funny scenes, and of course he's still kind of James Bond under all of that. His chemistry with Harrison Ford. Even his chemistry with Denham Elliott in the few scenes that they have together, or his chemistry with I can't remember the actress who plays Elsa in that. You know, you believe that certainly they could have done the things that are hinted at that they do.
Him and Ford play so well off each other. There's such a natural chemistry between the two of them that it was a shame that they couldn't bring him back for the fifth one, that I think in so many ways would have just really worked well. And there's good reasons, because he was retired at that point.
Yeah.
He really, it was a strong movie on its own, and then you bring that combination, that relationship, that's something you never explored before in those movies, and having Connery, just his portrayal of the father and just the way he's able to deliver the lines, just works so well, that it gives that movie another level that the other Indiana Jones movies didn't have and haven't had to this point.
Yeah, sorry, there's a windstorm where I am and lights are flickering, so I'm a little, if I suddenly disappear from this conversation, you'll know why.
That's kind of been the issue I've been having most of the night. I keep on waiting for the lights to go out.
All right. So I'm trying to think, what was I was distracted. You can edit this part of the show out, I'm sure, where we can talk about my lights. But yeah, no. Let me start that again. The clean cut. Yeah, he and Harrison Ford, and of course they've got great material to work with. You know, with the writing in that is it's a very well written chemistry too. It's all there on the paper to start with, and when you have two really good actors delivering that kind of really good material, you're gonna end up with a great film at the end.
Yeah.
And they said, I know Steven Spielberg at least has said this. I believe George Lucas has said this too, that when they were planning Indy, or when they were planning Last Crusade, and they knew that's going to be about Indy and his father, the relationship between Indy and his father. The conversation was something along the lines of, you know, Indiana Jones was always meant to be sort of a modern day. It was Spielberg and Lucas trying to do James Bond in their own way. They wanted
the American
something
James Bond. Yeah.
It was an American James Bond. So when it came to who should play Indiana Jones' father, as far as they were concerned, the only person who could play Indy's father was James Bond. And that's how Sean Connery got cast. And I'm so glad that they got him and that he was able to do it, because I think it introduced him to, I'm sure I'm not alone in that sentiment that, that was my introduction to Sean Connery. And again, what a great character and what a great film.
Yeah, like I said, they begged him to come back for Crystal Skull, but he said he was retired and he was not coming. There's nothing that was going to make him come out of that. Yeah.
And I think, just sort of turn the conversation back to what I was saying. I know the last two films that he did had been The Avengers and League of, I think they were like the last two films that he did. I know League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was the last. And I think Avengers, there might be one more in between. But I don't think he had good experiences on either of those films.
No.
It was kind of a time, if you look at that, you either had there was this sort of, there were films that were really good, and there was this like garbage that was kind of riding on the coattails of all the really good stuff. And I know that with League of, there was he was asked about League of Extraordinary, like, what made you want to take this film? And he said he was offered, what was he offered? He was offered the part in like Star Wars, and he read the script and he didn't understand it and he turned it down. And then he was offered a part in like Lord of the Rings, or it was Lord of the Rings and Pirates of the Caribbean, or like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, two of that. He was offered like two films that were like really, really huge successes. And he read the script and he didn't understand them and he put them aside and he turned them down. And then he read League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and he said, well, I don't understand this, but I've already turned down these other two films. And maybe I should try one of these films that I don't understand. And
well,
what he ended up, we know what he ended up with. And I don't think he had a good experience on either of those films.
That's kind of the inclination that, after those movies, and I think he also was getting tired of, or Michael Caine was suggesting that he was kind of getting tired of becoming the old man character,
right,
in the films. I mean, you talk about someone that was given the award of the sexiest man alive for the century award by some publication. And now it's just like, he always played the smooth Devier type of character for almost the majority of his career. And then all of a sudden you're starting to get into this other aspect of it, an aged character. And I don't think that's sat too kindly with him, unfortunately. And who can blame him? I mean, that's not the acting he wanted to do.
Right.
So what do? You hang it up.
Tired.
But yeah, I mean, he has such a catalog of just tons of movies of all different sorts.
Yeah.
That like I said, The Rock, that he did, Untouchables, another one.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Untouchables. Hunt for Red October.
Hunt for Red October, which is again fantastic. And
Untouchables is one of those ones that I've never seen and I keep meaning to watch.
Yeah, it's he again, it's, I mean, yeah, it's what's the guy's name?
Mike Malone was the character that he played.
No, actor that he, the actor that's across from him.
Is it Kevin Costner? No.
Yes.
Thank you.
Kevin Costner is the star of it, but again, Connery's
Elliot Ness
carrying the film.
Yeah.
And just again brings in so much more emotion and just extra stuff to it. I always find it funny.
And then, interestingly enough, this is a little side note that I don't know if this piece of trivia is interesting or not. After the Untouchables film, because there was an Untouchables TV series in like the 60s because it's all largely based on Al Capone and the feds trying to take down Al Capone in the 1920s, which apparently made for a good drama TV series in like the 1960s, and then the movie in the 1980s, and then because of the success of the movie in the early 1990s, there was the the all new Untouchables, and it was basically kind of a rehash. It was all of that stuff, but now, again, just done as a TV series, basically kind of telling the same story and hitting the same plot lines, but in a different medium. And the only reason I bring this up is because playing the part of Mike Malone in the second Untouchables TV series was Mr. John Rhys Davies, who played, of course, Sala in the Indiana Jones series, and so played across from Sean Connery in that. So how's that for? I don't know if the two of them ever spoke of the role or ever talked about it, but
again, and I say Marvel keeps on missed the mark whenever you had Robert Downey Jr. and Benedict Cumberbatch together on set, and they did not make a Sherlock Holmes reference. Yeah, and Connery also did he was in Highlander.
Oh yeah, of course. There can be only one.
Yeah, Time Bandits, Outland.
I always forget that he's in Time, because it's a bit part in Time Bandits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, similar to Robin Hood.
Yep. He shows up as the king in Robin Hood.
He's got that great. He shows up at the end as the king, as King Richard.
Another Connery. Connery. Hello. Yes, of course he's Connery. No. Why can't I remember his name?
I
haven't had enough to drink today.
I don't know. I don't even know what you're talking about. Oh, Kevin Costner.
Yeah, another Kevin Costner movie.
Yes, he was another. Yes.
Yeah, pass that by that one. I was gonna say before, I find it funny that he played James Bond, and James Bond was always against the Russians and everything like that. Where in Hunt for October, he plays a Russian.
He plays a Russian.
But just the length of movies that he's been in, and Murder of the Orient Express 1974. Just so much. I mean, best known for the James Bond and just the one role, but again, just so impactful of Henry Jones Sr. In Last Crusade, that it just, even though he hasn't been making movies for a while, it's still going to be missed on the screen, and just a fantastic actor. And
yeah.
The other one I bring up is Alex Trebek. We go from Scotland to Canada. Most people know him, for majority work Jeopardy, where he holds the Guinness World Record for most game show episodes of the single host of over 6,000.
Wow.
And that was in 2014.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It was like 6,400 something. It's some like really crazy.
So I wonder what actually wondering what the final count in terms of how many episodes of Jeopardy he was on.
Yeah, I don't.
Or know how many episodes of Jeopardy there have been.
Yeah, because he started up on the reboot of it, the simulcast. 8,000? Is that what IMDb is telling me? 8,218 episodes?
Wow. 8,218 episodes. My God.
And that's probably a mixture of Jeopardy, Teen Jeopardy, Senior Jeopardy, and Celebrity Jeopardy. He wasn't involved in the Sports Jeopardy.
I don't even remember I didn't know there was a Sports Jeopardy.
Yeah, neither did I until I stumbled upon it at some point. Not really the same. But yeah, it's And it was actually Trebek's idea to segment them that way. So you got regular Jeopardy. Okay, we're going to do a special one just for the teens. Then we got another one for seniors, and we just got a separate one for the celebrities to just kind of to spin them off that way.
We should just to double back, just to sort of jump off of that and double the conversation back a little bit. If we're going to talk about Alex Trebek and Sean Connery, and we're going to say the word celebrity Jeopardy.
Oh, geez.
We should talk about how apparently Alex Trebek loved those and did not have any problem. I don't know how Sean Connery felt about it, but Alex Trebek thought it was funny. And with good reason, because it was funny.
Yeah.
It was the recurring Saturday Night Live bit with Daryl Hammond as Sean Connery and Will Ferrell as a very beaten and abused Alex Trebek. Certainly one of the funnier sketches of Saturday Night Live in the last 20 years. And I think I thought it was sort of weird that we lost Sean Connery, and then within 4 or 5 days of that, we lost Alex Trebek. And it sort of took, once everybody kind of like wrapped their brains around it, like once you kind of got sort of over Alex, there was sort of like a 2 or 3 day mourning period. And then suddenly somebody went, wait a second, we lost Alex Trebek and Sean Connery at the same thing. These two are connected. And you started to see the memes about, we meet again, Trebek, or, whatever else. And I just thought it was sort of somehow a sort of wonderful poetic justice that the two men whose careers had absolutely nothing to do with each other. These two very divergent careers, and yet are linked by a comedy sketch. There's some poetic justice to that, of losing both of them at the same time.
Yeah.
Not really linked, and yet kind of linked in that way. I think there's something wonderfully poetic about that. But sorry, let's going back to the world of reality. We should give Alex Trebek some. But he thought they were funny.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at actually his appearances, everyone knows him for Jeopardy, but he's done a lot more. I mean, he appeared on the X-Files as a guest host. He was in Spy Hard, Charlie's Angels.
Really?
He even showed up in Scooby-Doo and The Simpsons. Yeah.
Simpsons doesn't surprise me. What Scooby-Doo was he in?
Newest one, Scooby-Doo Guess Who.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
As himself.
Yeah. I forgot that was a thing. That's a thing. That's sort of the remake of Scooby-Doo at the movies, where it's Scooby and the gang and like some modern day guest star like Alex Trebek or I'm trying to remember who. They've had a couple others, but it's not important. But yeah. Okay. Simpsons doesn't surprise me.
Seinfeld, the Magic School
Cheers.
Magic School Bus. He was an announcer.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, in the original
Cheers.
Magic School Bus.
He was in Cheers.
Yeah, he showed up on Cheers. Dave's World.
That's a great episode. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Cliff Clavin follows his dream, and I don't.
Two or
I don't
three men who
like
never been in my kitchen.
Three people. It's like three like physicists or something, and Cliff answers, "Who are three people who've never been in Ma's kitchen?"
You're a
No,
fraud,
I'm afraid
Trebek.
that's the wrong answer. No, they've never been in Ma's kitchen.
You're a fraud, Trebek.
It's the greatest.
And then was it, I think, Norm, where somebody pays Trebek off at the end
Right.
to apologize to Cliff?
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's great television right there.
He's Canadian. He can take himself so seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, he started off as a news broadcaster.
Wasn't he like a hockey announcer or something?
Maybe. I just saw that he was a news broadcaster for CBC, but then he started off. He did a game show for them called Reach for the Top. That's in 66, 73.
He was almost specifically like a hockey broadcaster.
Could have been. I could see that. I mean, it's Canada.
Yeah.
So,
but I think he had a wonderful humanity. He had sort of a wonderful humanity to him, and a wonderful sensibility. I think he brought calm grace to television. Not brought calm grace, but he was sort of a calm presence and an intellectual presence. He sort of raised. There's so much television. I mean, like, probably 95% of television is such.
Nice words.
What?
Said nice words.
Nice words. Yeah, I know. There's so much sort of junk food in television, I think is the best way to phrase that. There's a lot, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I like me a good McDonald's burger. I like a good episode of Cheers. But there's so much junk food out there in terms of television content, and to have that sort of haven where intelligence is celebrated and respected and honored, and to have that and to sort of run that for as long as he did, the fact that it has become this kind of American institution, man, that's a real legacy to leave behind. What a gift to the world. What a gift to the world of television, and what a gift to us. And pick any game show, literally any game show. You're not going to find anything that's got that level of decency and intelligence and humanity to it. And
no, the closest thing you could kind of come to is its counterpart of Wheel of Fortune, but you don't have the same intellect in that.
Right. I mean, there was a comedian. I don't even remember who it was who said this. I just remember hearing this, and he was going on about, he's like, what brilliant network executive put Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy next to each other on television, because you'd have the contestants, and it'd be like, this is on Jeopardy. It'd be like, you have the contestants. This is Dave. He does brain surgery in his spare time. His hobbies include brain surgery and crossword puzzles. And then you'd go over here we are on Wheel of Fortune. This is Gary. He's into shiny things.
Yeah. He mucks ponds for a living.
He likes
that's
shiny
a genius.
things.
There is the connection, because it's the same producer that came up with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, strangely enough, actually the year before Alex did Jeopardy, he's subbed in on the daytime Wheel of Fortune.
Oh,
before
did he?
It was a syndicated primetime show. But it's like you said, Jeopardy is like a safe haven, because unlike so many game shows, he doesn't talk down to the audience. The audience, the participants don't have to belittle themselves in any sort of way. They don't have to make fools of themselves. They don't have to, or get talked down to, or just, or do something stupid. It is, if they get something wrong, it's just that same, oh, I'm sorry, it was this.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's like he takes it to a higher level, and to prove the point that this works is because they did it for over 8,000 episodes. Name another game show besides Wheel of Fortune that has been able to do that.
Price is Right.
Yeah.
Is the only other thing that I could think of that's been around that long. But again, not in that way that brings in intellect and
No.
That level of dignity to television.
Correct. And I think that's why it's always been such a staple. Yes, it's something that you usually discover when you're older, and how much you appreciate it more when you're older. But even as a kid, I liked it as a kid. I again appreciate it more now as
As
I'm
an
older.
because you can answer the questions. I remember
I can answer some of the questions.
some of the questions. Who are three people who've never been in your kitchen?
That's been answered to most of them.
I remember when I was little, it sort of broke my brain, the idea that all of the answers were questions and all of the questions were answers. Like I remember it sort of like what being
That's
whatever
backwards.
it was, 6, 7 years old and just thinking, what is this voodoo? What do you mean all of the answers are questions and all of the questions are answers? That doesn't make any sense. But to jump the conversation back a little, we were talking about this the level of dignity that Alex Trebek brought to television, and when you look at the Celebrity Jeopardy sketch on Saturday Night Live, that's really kind of what that sketch is about at its heart. It's about, no matter how stupid and idiotic the answers get, the Alex Trebek, or Will Ferrell as Alex Trebek, still sort of plays that same kind of dignity, and it's that dignity. Not really, I don't want to say mocking, but sort of in its own sort of very silly way, celebrating Alex Trebek's dignity and that dignity that he brought to television. Because no matter how stupid the answers get, he maintains that.
Yeah.
The Alex Trebek character, even the Alex Trebek character, maintains that, no matter how idiotic, or in the case of Daryl Hammond's Sean Connery, how insulting some of the answers get, or offensive some of the answers get.
Yeah,
and I think that's really, when you look back at those sketches, what makes them so funny is because there's a truth to it. It's no matter how ridiculous it might have gotten, or if it ever got ridiculous, Alex Trebek never lost that level of he was always in control of it, and he was always sort of calm in the face of it. And not that really Jeopardy was the spiciest thing on television ever, but it was sort of what he brought, not only to Jeopardy, but what he brought to television.
There's no Maury Povich, but yes.
Yeah, no.
Thank goodness for that. Yeah, and in the even in his time, he was in a Disney World attraction, Ellen's Energy Adventure, playing himself on Jeopardy. She was like, "Oh, there's this the nightmare version of it." He still again had that nice demeanor about it, delivering the lines, and it played into so well. And it's one of the few times that you'd see Ellen, Alex Trebek, and Bill Nye the Science Guy together in the same thing.
Again, going back to it, I was just thinking that we were talking about the Cheers episode, and what makes that scene so funny is, again, this idea that here is a stupid answer to the question, or a stupid question to the answer, because it's Jeopardy. Who are three people who've never been in my kitchen? Which is technically correct, and Cliff stands by that and is yelling insults at Alex Trebek and carrying on and having this temper tantrum on national television, and yet Alex Trebek still goes on being Alex Trebek. And it's funny because that if that happened on Jeopardy, that's exactly what would happen. He would just sort of carry on and keep that. That's what makes that scene funny, is that level of truth to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'm not the only one that thinks this, but he shaved his mustache in 2000, in the 2000-2001 season of Jeopardy. To this day, the only way even if I see him physically without his mustache, I still see the mustache there.
It takes you a minute to realize, yeah.
30 years he has.
Wait, I'm now thinking, he was the spokesman for something.
Yes.
What was he the spokesman for?
World Vision?
Maybe. What was he? Oh, gosh. He was a spokesman for a couple of things, but
AARP also.
I think that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, he did a few things.
Yeah. Well, because he kind of, he was a sort of most trusted man on television. Really.
Colonial Penn.
I think AARP is the one that I was thinking of, because I knew there was like a major one.
Yeah, Colonial Penn was another one, but I think AARP was one of them. Those are the main ones that come up.
Life insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe that's the one I was. Colonial Penn Life Insurance. Which, was smart, because, you can trust Alex Trebek.
Absolutely. So, again, another one that will be definitely missed. I mean, when I found out that, when he was diagnosed with the cancer, particularly
I think that pulled all of us over. I think that knocked all of us over.
Yeah, the type of cancer he had, it just, you kind of hate to say it, but you knew it was kind of a matter of time, unfortunately. Right. And I mean, he fought it. You never saw him not hold up to his standards.
Yeah.
During that, and just heartbreaking.
Yeah. I know what I was trying to say earlier when I was talking about garbage on television. I think there's so much television where stupidity is celebrated.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeopardy was like the one place where intelligence was celebrated. Always.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And good Lord, we need more of that.
Intelligence? Nope, sorry, we're all out of that today.
Nope.
Okay. What's that line for? Mrs. Doubtfire. I came to this place for in search for intelligent life. Oops, I seem to make a mistake. Yep, that sums it up. Moving right along. You had some news that you were dropping on me before.
I did. Which one do you want to... I had like 3. I've got them all lined up so I can read... What do you want to talk about?
Let's start with Darkwing. I need something to pick me up. We're talking about death. Let's move on to something a little more uplifting.
It was announced earlier this week that my computer will not let me scroll to see the story. So this is going to be like the worst part of the show that we've ever done. It was announced earlier this week that Seth Rogen is developing a Darkwing Duck reboot for Disney Plus. No writer is currently attached to the program, but sources said this is off of Variety, who broke the news. It will be executive produced by Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg, and James Weaver and Alex McAtee of Point Grey Pictures. And then it goes on basically to kind of give a history. So it's very loose information right now. There is no idea. I'm assuming it will play off of and piggyback off of the Darkwing Duck character as introduced in the current DuckTales. Because it would be really weird to sort of introduce that character and then introduce Darkwing Duck, like a completely different version of Darkwing Duck. That would be completely different from the original version of Dark. It would get very confusing. The world doesn't need 3 Darkwings. Yes, apparently that's a big thing that is in process at Darkwing for Disney Plus. And of course, this is all. I'm trying to think. When was DuckTales was announced? 2015. Yes, about that. Yeah, because I actually remember. I remember the day that was broken because I had 700 people sending. Have you seen this? You heard about DuckTales? We know you're a huge DuckTales guy. And I remember like my son was like really little at the time, so he would have been less than a year. So it would have been 2015, and the show premiered in late 2017. So there was a good like 2.5 year period. If we're hearing about Darkwing now, it might be a little bit faster because the character designs are all there. You're not starting from scratch in terms of casting and stuff, but you're probably still at least 2 years out before we see that show.
I would say it's probably about a good 2 years.
Probably.
They're taking longer to write this stuff. It's not like what Tad was telling me about how they were working out the script. Tad and Jim said before for these things they were pumping out scripts like 5 a day.
Yeah.
Having to just like mass produce. It's like, okay, here's a someone goes to an ice cream shop, run with it, and just that's kind of how it was before. Now they've taken it back, and now they're really like trying to mold these things, and there's a lot more work gone into the development of them. And versus the early days of these shows. So that's why they take a little longer. Like the DuckTales seasons. Okay, well, how come there's a break? Well, because they're taking time to actually develop stories, and then they have to animate the stories and record. So there's a lot of.
I don't know if Darkwing will be able to, but certainly with DuckTales, the stories aren't as standalone. The original DuckTales show was everything stood on its own. Episode 1 had no connection to episode 25. And
but in the original days, they actually wanted an arc, a weekly arc.
Really?
Yeah. Who was it? Was it Jim or Tad? One of the two was telling me that.
Probably would have been Jim.
That they wanted a weekly arc between the to go from. Yeah, I think it was probably Jim. From Monday to Friday, it wraps up on Friday's episode. And initially, and that's kind of how the movie started out. And then from there, kind of just like, I think they just took that and threw it into the boiler.
Yeah.
At that point. And, but yeah, I think that was the original hope that they could do that kind of segmenting with it. Like I said, obviously we know that that's not how it all played out, but but there's so much more story arc involved in the new series, which is brilliant and interesting, and between those two guys, I got two very different answers on what they thought of the show. They both wish it well.
For whatever this is worth, I know that Carl Barks was a fan of the original series, like up to a point. He's like, it's not my Uncle Scrooge, but it's darn good television. They took some liberties with it, and he was kind of okay with that. And then as they got into some of the later episodes, like Gizmo Duck and Bubba Duck, he's like, it's a good show, but there are way too many characters. It was better when it was a smaller cast. That was the great Carl Barks' take on the show.
Yeah, both Tad creations. Tad's so
great. Oh, were they?
Yeah, he created both Gizmo and Bubba.
And there was a. Sorry, I blanked. There was going
to be a third one. Yeah, there was going to be an alien.
What was the third one?
It was going to be a space alien.
Alien, right. Yeah,
and that got pushed to the side.
Which I think, like I said, it's Duckburg got a little crowded at that point, so that's not the worst.
Yeah, because they were trading off. Okay, one episode is going to be Gizmo Duck, the other next one's Bubba, to Gizmo Duck, back to Bubba. It's like every other episode.
When you start doing that, then you kind of lose, Launchpad and Scrooge and Huey, Dewey, and Louie and Webby, and their stories kind of.
Absolutely. But yeah,
don't get me wrong. I love me some Gizmo Duck, but the Gizmo Duck episodes are not as strong. And same for Bubba. Those episodes are not as strong as some of the earlier, more Barksian adventures that they had to.
Like their earlier episodes were like their introductory ones.
Yeah,
I thought were pretty good. But then, yeah, some of the other ones just kind of got watered.
It loses. They also I think they changed animation houses too, because the animation changes drastically. The characters become a lot more elastic when you get to the Gizmo Duck and Bubba Duck episodes.
Maybe that was. I could ask Jim this. I could always find out. He might have been off of it at that point too.
Yeah,
because maybe that was the point that they moved from Japan to France.
That would do it.
Because originally these things were being produced in Asia.
Yeah,
and at some point they started up the studio in France, and they were covering some of the work.
Yeah. Okay. That would make sense. Or yeah, there is a definite change in the style of anime. It's the same with like if you watch The Simpsons. There's like the first couple of seasons, and then it suddenly the animation style just changes drastically because they move away from Klasky Csupo, who was the original animation house. And then and I don't remember who it's been since then. Somebody else. But yeah, the DuckTales has a change in animation. What were we talking about again? We were talking about Darkwing. How did we get
Duck?
The terror that flaps in the night.
I am the terror that flaps in the night. I am the sticky gum found on the bottom of your shoe. I am Darkwing Duck. I am out of smoke effect. How did I run out of the smoke effect?
Well, I'm sure this story has been told, but the great thing. Well, actually, this is interesting. It was that originally it was always the original idea was that it would be a catchphrase. It would always be, "I am the terror that flaps in the night. I am the winged scourge that pecks at your nightmares. I am Darkwing Duck," and that's what he would say each and every time he made an entrance. And then early on, they were writing a script where Launchpad was filling in for him, and the idea was that Launchpad would come in and totally screw it up. And so it would be something like, I am the bug on the windshield of justice or something. And they sat around, like the writers sat around spitting these things back and forth at each other, trying to find, and they were like, which one is the funniest? And they were all funny, and they're like, this is what it should be. Every time Darkwing comes in, he should say, it should always be, "I am the terror that flaps in the night. I am," and they would just fill in something different each week, and
whatever
so
goes with the scenario.
That idea was jettisoned, and then Jim Cummings tells the story about, because he would sometimes ad-lib them. He tells the story about doing the read-through one, doing the record, and he's doing the thing, and he's reading through, and he turns and he goes, "I am the terror that flaps in the night," and he turns the page, and it says, "Doesn't matter what I write here, Jim will come up with something funnier."
That's excellent. It didn't tell me that part.
No, that's a Jim Cummings story. You got to get Jim Cummings to tell you that story. So
I'm working on that.
Yes. So since we're in the realm of Darkwing, should we jump over to the other piece of news that I have?
Do it.
The other one that we were talking about?
Do it.
Since we're talking about Disney, this is a couple of weeks ago, and I'm pulling this. This was reported in a couple places, but the webpage I'm looking at right now is Inside the Magic. Live-action Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers movie coming to Disney Plus. I'm just sort of to attention. Okay, so the original source for this was the Dish Insider. I'm sorry, the Diz Insider. Exclusive to Disney Plus. The rumor currently is that Treston McNeil, Corey Burton, and Jim Cummings, who we were just talking about, will play the roles of Chip, Gadget, Dale, and Monterey Jack, respectively. That's Treston McNeil as Chip and Gadget, not Corey Burton as Gadget and Dale, just so I'm clear on that, because that would be weird. Yep. But no, Treston McNeil as Chip and Gadget Hackwrench, Corey Burton as Dale, and Jim Cummings as Monterey Jack, and then we would certainly hope Fat Cat. It is being written by the writing team behind the hit show How I Met Your Mother and directed by Akiva Schaffer of The Lonely Island fame. What's The Lonely Island? Do you have any idea? I've never heard of that.
I can't say I am familiar with it either, but then again, I don't pay much attention to Much modern television.
Okay.
I couldn't even assume that's a television show.
All right. And we would certainly hope that, and it's going to be live action. I don't know. What are your? I'm curious because they've been talking about doing a Rescue Rangers movie for years.
Yeah,
this
6 years ago, I'm even finding reports of this that they were doing a CG hybrid adaptation of it.
Yeah, this surfaced about 5 years ago. It started in development about 5 years ago, and then kind of got shelved. And it kind of comes up. Well, even back in the 80s, this was going to be the follow-up to DuckTales: Treasure of the Lost Lamp. Was going to be a Rescue Rangers movie, and then that didn't do as well as they expected it to, and so Rescue Rangers was shelved the first time. We got the Goofy movie instead, which is a wonderful little piece of cinema. We've talked about that on the show before. Incidentally, happy belated birthday to Jim. No, not Jim Farmer. Bill Farmer. His birthday was yesterday. Or today, something like that. Yesterday, I think, was Bill Farmer's birthday. And once again, I've derailed the conversation with myself. And then about 5 years ago, it was like, we're going to do a Rescue Rangers movie, and then that never happened, and now here we are again. I think now that they don't have to worry about... it's such a thing now, since you don't have to worry about... what you and I were talking about before we started recording is that idea of when you do a movie, if you do a cinematic release, there's so much on the line. There's so much money that goes into promoting it and marketing it. There's so much money that goes into making it. There's so much that's involved, and if it doesn't make that, it's problematic. Whereas with Disney Plus, you've already made your money on it, kind of. It's
pretty much.
Nobody is going to be flocking. It's not like they're going to do a Rescue Rangers movie and suddenly everybody's going to, the rest of the world that doesn't have Disney Plus is suddenly going to get Disney Plus because there's a Rescue Rangers movie. But if you make a Rescue Rangers movie, all of your Disney Plus subscribers who like the Disney Afternoon are going to go, yeah, you guys can keep my $70 for that. I'll pay the thing for that. I'll continue being a member.
You have a built-in audience.
Yeah.
You're not trying to fish out an audience. And you also have, we were talking about the time frame of having to time things out. You kind of have, and I don't think they've fully realized this yet on making stuff for Disney Plus yet, or a lot of these other streaming things. You don't have to stick to the formula time.
Right.
If you make something, it doesn't animated movie is 90 minutes. What if you make it 80 minutes?
Yeah.
What if you make it...
Well, look at The Mandalorian. I was shocked when I turned on, this is 42 minutes is an episode of The Mandalorian. I'm like, oh, okay,
And then the next week was 33 minutes
35,
or something like that. Yeah, and it fluctuates. It doesn't have to conform to the 25-minute time, or 23 minutes, I think it is now, timing of a half-hour television show on TV. It can just, whatever time we need to tell this story is the time we will take.
The time you take to tell it. And it gives you, I think it gives your filmmakers a lot more room and a lot more breathing space too, that they don't have to tell it in that amount of time. So if they put in an extra scene, because you always see it in you watch a deleted scene from like Star Wars or something, and you're like, well, that would have been useful,
Why did you take that out?
Why are you taking this out? But
because we had to cut it because, you hear the Avengers. Well, the original, the Marvel's Avengers Assemble movie, whatever, the one that came out that made a couple dollars for Marvel.
The one with Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans.
Yeah, only a couple people want to go see that.
Not the Avengers with Sean Connery and Uma Thurman and Ralph Fiennes.
Bingo.
Just so we're clear.
Yeah, go back a few episodes. We explain what why in England that movie has a different title. Earth's Mightiest Heroes had to be added on there because of them. Anyway,
I never made that connection. Of course.
Yeah, they had to put the subtitle in England to make sure people realize this isn't
the
Emma Peel.
Avengers.
Yes.
Oh,
This is the Avengers, not the Avengers.
Avengers. Oh, you learn something when you listen to this show. You learn something when you're on this show. Everybody, it's like Jeopardy here, but with us.
And I don't have a mustache, and I'm definitely not Alex Trebek. But my God, where was I going with this? The original cut of the movie was over 3 hours long, and the theater houses were losing their collective mind, saying we cannot show this movie because we would not be able to circulate enough of it, and we would have to take up too many screens and this and that, and it's anarchy to make something that's over 2.5 hours long. So hence why they had to cut out a fair amount of that movie. The original Weiss's idea was it was a fairly sizable movie. So it would, you always, you kind of want to see, okay, what more was there? And eventually, I think in 57 releases of the movie, you will eventually get all the pieces put together and be able to see collectively what the movie was going to be in its original length. But yeah, it's time is not an issue on Disney Plus, and hopefully they use that to their advantage when they make things going forward, like Rescue Rangers. I wasn't a fan of the original concept that was floated 6 years ago, so I hope they've moved away from that.
Do you have, what was their original concept? Do you know?
I'm trying to remember, but it was as far from the animated series as I would think deemly possible.
Yeah.
Do I still have it up? No, I don't. Moved away from it here, but
I worry because it's going to be sort of that live action CGI hybrid, and it's so weird when you do stuff like that. When you look at like the Chipmunks movie or something like that, that sort of, or like Garfield, you got to be real careful with that, because if you do Chip and Dale and Gadget and Monterey Jack and you make them look like they originally looked, they don't really look the way that there's something like sort of off-putting about the way CGI hybrid characters work. It's very rarely, in my opinion, does it look good on film. There are, with rare exceptions, I think Stuart Little is one of the few that I'm like, okay, that looks really good. Paddington looked really, looks good on film. But like the Chipmunks are flipping scary to look at. Garfield is terrifying to look at. Garfield is the stuff of nightmares as far as, and it's also weird because then you have like Garfield, who is like not. That does not look like a cat. Does not look anything like a cat. And then you put him against Odie, who's played by a beagle, and Odie looks like a beagle, but then you've got this weird looking thing that's not a cat. It's, if you're gonna do that to Chip and Dale and Gadget and Monterey Jack, you then have to do that to all of the mice and chipmunks in the movie, or it's gonna look weird. And if you're gonna do that, and then if you're doing like Fat Cat and his gang, you've got to do those kind of stylistically too. You sort of have to, the universe has to be then, in my opinion, kind of, you know what I'm saying? It's weird to me.
I get it.
Yeah. And so I'm very, when they announce something like this, you're like, okay, cool. And then they go CGI hybrid, and you go, boy, that's gonna.
Yeah, because at one point, one of the headlines in a lot of these stories have been pulled, so I can't bring them up. But one of the headlines was saying that it was going to be scientifically accurate. I think maybe they weren't even going to be talking. It was just kind of really taking it. It's like, okay, we're using the base idea and then throwing everything else out. Kind of one of those type of scenarios. So Yeah, I hope they stick a little more to the source material.
Yeah.
And go from there. So,
and I'll be very disappointed if they don't get it. I can't remember his name, but there's an animator who used to work for Disney, who is he was the inspiration for Norton Nimnall. And if he doesn't make a cameo in the live action film, I'd be very disappointed.
That'd be great. I won't hold it to that standard, but that would be great if they could.
I can't remember his name, but there's a behind the scenes thing on Rescue Rangers that you can find on YouTube, and they talk about him and they talk to him, and he literally is just this. He looks exactly like Norton Nimnall. And when they were designing the show, they're like, oh, it should be him. It should be that guy, and it's very funny to look at. Or it's very funny to see, I should say.
Absolutely. Oh, I have to look more into that.
And we should, since we're on the topic, this was the other thing I wanted to talk to you about. I said there was something else on my mind, and I just remembered we should talk about the other thing, which maybe I don't have much to say on this, but there is, on the theme of Rescue Rangers, there is now a new young adult novel featuring Gadget Hackwrench as a main character, and it's going to be a series because there's a second one due out at some point. And I can't remember the name of the. Is it no, not Mouseworks. What's the name of the?
No, that was a store.
Yeah, that was.
Yes, you sent that to me. It's definitely more young adult, definitely not aimed for people our age, because we both had the same reaction when we read this.
Mind you, I have
Mousewatch.
Mousewatch. That's it. I knew I was close. Mousewatch. I have an 11-year-old daughter, so and a 6-year-old son, so they might enjoy it. But I think that's great that I like that Gadget is finding work.
Yes. I'm sure her royalties from Rescue Rangers have dwindled in the sense, in this time, and getting back into the swing of things and taking more of a lead role, kind of the Bosley role.
Yeah. This is the thing that I love. And I'm just going to tangent for just a second. Many years ago, when my daughter was sort of just the right age, I started introducing her to these things and sort of rediscovering these shows for myself. And one of the things that really struck me watching them now as an adult male with my, then 4 or 5-year-old daughter, was how really progressive the Disney afternoon shows were in terms of their female characters. That you had Gadget, who was an inventor and was the brains and was not necessarily a girly girl who needed to be rescued. And that even a character like Princess Kala or Sunny Gummy could be that kind of girly girl, but they also went on the adventures and rescued themselves and got themselves into trouble and got themselves out of trouble. And that even Webby, a character like Webbigale, who was the baby of the group, and there were a lot of episodes where Webby might not be the strongest or the biggest or the fastest, but she's got this huge heart, and it's Webby's kindness that is what gets them out of trouble. That's a really great lesson to give kids and to give little girls and kids in general. And even you get to Tailspin, and you've got a character like Rebecca Cunningham, who is a single mom running her own business. I mean, at that Molly. Time, with Molly, I mean, at that time, that's really, really progressive for a kids' TV show at that time. And I
and
just
then
think
stepping it one forward again to Darkwing with Goslin, who was. And I spoke to Tad about this, who was adopted and who wasn't like the damsel in distress type of character. She was
just as much as part of the adventure and just as much as part of the thing. And she was just as capable of, if not sometimes even more capable of getting them out of trouble than Darkwing was.
Right. And I spoke to Tad about this, and he, one of the things that I complimented about it, he said this was a focus of the writing, was the relationship between Drake and Goslin.
Yeah.
And that was something that he did try to focus on, in building that relationship, in showing the characters hugging and caring for each other, and in their dynamic. And you're right, 20, 30 years on from when these shows first debuted, a lot of TV shows are still trying to find a formula to be able to show female characters or characters in general in that kind of light.
And I think the new DuckTales has done a remarkable job of that, where you have the 2017 Webby is a lot more daredevil than her 1987 counterpart. That Mrs. Beakley is more involved in the adventures than her 1987 counterpart.
Mm-hmm.
That who was I just thinking of? Who's the other female character on this? Oh, Della Duck. Della's a great example.
Della's a great character.
What a fantastic character. And I think you were the one who turned to me and said, hey, you're seeing this. Della's getting a lot of recognition because she's disabled, and yet she's still involved in these adventures with the others. I mean, again, that's just very forward thinking of Disney, and what I like about that is that Della being disabled is not, it doesn't define the character. It doesn't. It's never pointed out. It's just what it is, and you accept it. You accept that her foot is different, her leg is different. You don't point that out. That's kind of the important thing, is that you normalize that. What a great thing. What a great lesson to give kids in a very unique way. Just sort of make that sort of representation. That's so important. And it's so important that we have that. And I'm thrilled to see Disney kind of continue bringing that to their television projects.
Yeah, I think, and if I remember, maybe I'm making this up, I think there's even a few points where that they even address some of her PTSD from her being stranded on the moon and having to go through these things too. And also just the emotional lapse of the character of, having to been removed from her kids for an extended period of time and missing out on all that and trying to figure out, how do I make up for everything that I should have been there for, and by something that happened that wasn't my choice. I can't get that back, but there's that whole conflict, and again, I think they address it so well. And Disney and Pixar in a lot of their newer animation have been addressing these type of things.
And let me ask you this, and this is more of a rhetorical question, so it's not a question that needs an answer, but how many of DuckTales audience do you think is deployed overseas?
That's
a rhetorical question. I'm not. You don't need to give me real numbers, but that's a very real. Think about what that is giving kids whose father or mother is in Afghanistan and
or somewhere,
wherever, and you're dealing with you're telling these, or have come back from Iraq or Afghanistan or wherever, and are going through the thing, kids who are going through what Huey, Dewey, and Louie were going through in season 1, kids who are going through, who's watching their parents go through what Della is going through, or watching, their dads and mothers go through, even the other side of that coin, what Scrooge and Donald have gone through, not having that part of their family there, and what it's done to the family. That's wonderful on Disney's part.
Absolutely.
And again, not done in a way that's ham-fisted at all. You don't have to linger on it, but you can sort of cover it without standing on your soapbox.
It's organic.
Yeah,
it's done in a very organic sense. It's there without being like shoved in your face there.
Yeah. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to do that kind of television and not make it, this week on a very special episode of Blossom.
On a very heartfelt episode. Get your tissue boxes ready.
To make it an after, you're not making an after school special out of it. You still gotta, at the same time, you still gotta entertain your audience and yet still represent and tell that story. It's a really
well, yeah, I mean, there's the occasional part where I think Della unscrews her leg and beats someone senseless with it. But yes, it's
my son's obsessed with How to Train Your Dragon right now, and Hiccup does similar things. There are a couple of really sick Hiccup without his leg jokes.
Oh, jeez,
dude, that is not right.
So he's further in the series now. Yes.
Oh yeah. He's. I think at the third movie, Hiccup removes his spare leg, and they're playing fetch with it.
Yes. Yes, I believe that is correct.
Yeah. Sorry, we were talking about stuff. We just talked about not Mouseworks. What's this called? Mousewatch. And there is a sequel book on its way. I don't know when. I read that the other day. But the first one, Mousewatch, just came out by J.J. Gilbert. And there's a second one, and Gadget is sort of I should point out, she's not the main character in this, but she's kind of the sort of Moneypenny kind of role. It's sort of a cross between Moneypenny and Q. Yeah. She sort of runs this organization of it's basically Gadget's running the Rescuers now, which is kind of what Rescue Rangers was going to be originally. It was going to be Rescuers, the TV series, but then Disney was doing a Rescuers sequel, and they said, no, you can't do that, and we got this wonderful series with Chip and Dale instead, which is fine.
Well, because they couldn't use any of the main characters. Said, well, can we use these ones? Because they already came up with the designs of these characters. The Magnum PI character that eventually became Dale's, and then this swashbuckling, not swashbuckling, adventurer type of Indiana Jones type of character that eventually got morphed into Chip.
The name Chatterton or something like that.
Yeah, the name blanks me, and
some pun name.
Yeah, but. Go back to episode 100. You'll find out the name there. So they were granted these characters because they weren't the main characters at that point. And then, look what we could do with characters, and then hence bringing Goofy and everybody else. But so that's how that came about. It's like I said, I think she's more akin to Bosley from Charlie's Angels.
Yeah. Or Moneypenny, and she's sort of a combination of Moneypenny and Q from James Bond.
Yeah.
So sort of bring us back to the original conversation for the night.
And so that should be an interesting series, and I really hope it does well. Let's finish up with some Mandalorian talk.
Did you the Mandalorian or the other one that I had?
Let's finish up with Mandalorian. That's really on the high notes.
Okay. That's fine, because the other one really is weird. We'll discuss that one another time.
Yeah. Let's get some more information on that one. But so episode 3 of season 2 just came out.
Yay!
And what was your take on that? Because now they're really switching, finding the direction of this season, I want to say, in this one.
I think this week was kind of like that one thing that I think a lot of Mandalorian fans have been waiting for. Or maybe not, I shouldn't say Mandalorian fans. Let me fine-tune that a little. What Dave Filoni fans have been waiting for. Anybody who's watched Clone Wars, everybody who's watched Rebels, we've been given these little snippets and these little teases these little bits of that Clone Wars world, those little bits of, there's a Loth Cat in one episode.
There's Chopper in this. If you pause the frame just here and you look, there's Chopper, and
There's
then
Chopper in
here's the
Rogue
Ghost.
One,
The Ghost is.
And you always want to see that go that little bit further, and to have Bo-Katan appear and be there. And it's actually the same actress who voiced her in both of the animated shows, in both Clone Wars and Rebels, and she's playing this character. And suddenly, Rebels and Clone Wars are a little bit more that world. I mean, it's the same world, but that those characters are suddenly that little bit more
linked,
real.
Yeah,
and the weird little spiders from. Of all the things for them to bring in, like, come on. You could have put, I get excited about seeing Chopper and the Ghost in Rogue One. I get excited about seeing Bo-Katan. I got excited about seeing the Loth Cat. You give me anything from the animated shows, and I'm like, yeah, they're like, we're going to give you the most nightmarish thing that's ever come out of those shows. Giant white spiders that crawl all over it, like, and we're going to do that for about 15 minutes a show. It's going to be the whole thing. Why would you do that to me? Sorry.
I watched that thing late at night, too. That wasn't good.
No, I watched it midday. I watched it about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so it was not just before bedtime. But even then, I was a little heebie-jeebied for a while. But they made up for it this week by not only giving us Bo-Katan, but she name drops. Spoiler alert, she name drops Ahsoka Tano, and we're zeroing in on the arrival of Ahsoka in Mandalorian, which is, I think, so I know it's such a popular character. So many people have been waiting for this. So many people have been looking forward to this. I've been watching the shows, and because I knew Bo-Katan was going to be popping up this week, I went in and I grabbed my daughter, who had not seen any of the show, and I'm like, come watch Mandalorian with me. And I just kind of brought her up to speed on what was going on in the show. We watched it, and Bo-Katan came up, and I went, who that character is? She was like, oh, yeah, I know who that's from Clone Wars, right? And then they sort of name-dropped Ahsoka, and I'm like, the show ended. I turned to my daughter, and I'm like, we're watching this again next week. I'll come find you before I watch this. All right. Because my daughter's a huge Ahsoka fan. It's her favorite character. So it's like, I just can't wait.
How could you not? I mean, that character... just you watch her grow up in Clone Wars, and then even more, and then you get some more of her in Rebels. It just, the character again just done so well. And whenever I heard the rumors of this possibly happening for season 2, I just got all excited. It was a character that I don't know as much as many people do, but what I do know, I really like.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy that character.
It's a character that grows on you, because when you see her, when she's first introduced in Clone Wars, she really is this irritating sort of 11-year-old, almost not really bratty, but she's sort of trying to be cool, or she questions everything, and she's just like, why is this why is this kid in my Clone Wars show? Like, no. But over the course of however many episodes, her character really grows and develops in arcs, and you see that character, like you said, you see her grow up. And then when you get to Rebels, and she actually is now a grown-up, and she's at peace with a lot of things, and she's calmer, and she's more centered and more focused, and she's now in that kind of Obi-Wan role. It's just a wonderful arc to have to give that character. And now to see her even beyond that, grow beyond that, it's very exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah, they're hinting at it'll be next week, but I don't know if it'll be next week or the following week, because you never. They may drag this out, but
you never know. I will tell you, I read this somewhere that Dave Filoni is supposedly the director on episode 5. So if you were gonna do an Ahsoka heavy episode, that's the one I'd probably put my money on. Or we might see her this week, but I think anything they do with her might be the following week.
She might show up at the end of the episode.
Maybe.
a la Force Awakens.
Yeah, nothing in The Mandalorian is a straight path. So
No, like I keep on saying, this frog lady, there's more to her. For some reason, I feel like that this character.
Yeah.
Just the way that they present her.
I think we'll see the Timothy Oliphant character again too.
Yeah.
Because this is the way. It's like let's establish this character, let's establish this character, and then at the end of the season, it's like Avengers assemble. Let's bring in all the guys who we've established, and like season 1, I thought that was a great to suddenly see IG-11 and he's now this almost completely different character.
It's the same character, but it's not. Yeah,
but it's not. I was like, oh, this is wonderful. He's like, oh, like he was kind of a cool character. Oh, he's gone. And then to see him come back and be the character that he ends up being at the end of that season,
and then doing what he did, and just you're like, no. Yeah.
Spoiler alert for anybody who's listening to us, and
I didn't say what happened.
It could be guessed. But I liked even seeing the droid from the heist episode. It shows up last week or 2 weeks ago when she's with the frog, and she's like the frog lady, and she's like, I have. She's rewired it so that she could speak through the droid to the Mandalorian.
Yes.
I thought that was a great payoff. And again, like, this is kind of a fun character. And he meets with the fate that he meets with, and then just sort of see that character come up again. Like, oh, what a neat use of that character. So yeah, I think we'll see Timothy Oliphant's character again, the sort of sheriff character again.
Absolutely.
I certainly hope we'll see we got to see Bo-Katan again, because we know the Darksaber is such a part of things. The show is called The Mandalorian, and it's about a Mandalorian. There are probably going to be other Mandalorians in the show. The frog lady, you think we're going to see again, certainly. And with any luck, we're going to see. And then it's also been teased we're going to see Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
And there are rumors we may see 2 other. I don't want to say anything because I might be wrong about this, but there are rumors that we might see a couple other friends from Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah, from Clone Wars Rebels. Yeah, I've heard that rumor too. And I won't mention who, but yeah, they
come along for the ride.
Yeah, which would make sense with the characters that they brought in. That it's that whole circle kind of there. So like I said, that would.
The last time we saw Ahsoka, she had a very clear agenda of what she was heading towards next. So, and there was who she was with. So one would almost kind of hope that gets played out in some degree. We see where her and her friend have gone.
Yep.
And then she has another close friend from the Clone Wars and Rebels. Alas, I've said too much, but if you've paid any attention to some casting decisions, there's an actor who's fit for a certain role.
Indeed.
That we may see.
Indeed.
Who has already been in an episode of Mandalorian and is supposed to be in more. And I'm almost positive we're gonna see him again.
Yeah, absolutely. So, on that, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Always a pleasure. And we will do this again sometime soon. Sooner than it has been. Thank you again to Matt Leonard for stopping by. As always, great conversations with them. Great conversations. You too. We want you in the conversation. Join the conversation on Facebook. Facebook.com/Disney Marvels Podcast. Or our Facebook group. Facebook.com/group/Disney Marvels Podcast. Find us also on Instagram, Disney Marvels Podcast, or on Twitter at Disney Marvels. You can also email the show with any answers or suggestions that you have for the show, suggestions of topics, suggestions of things that we do on the show, how to change the show up, how we may improve the show. Send that to DisneyMarvels@gmail.com. We're always listening. You can also leave a voice message, speaking of listening, through the Anchor app, website, or through your smart device to the email address just mentioned before. Links to everything is in the show notes. I also want to thank you, the listener, you right there on the other side of the speaker here for me. I want to thank you for your time. I know how little time we all have these days and how crazy everything is. And the fact that you're spending some of that time with me means a lot. I couldn't do this show without you. I seriously mean that. I really mean that. And you know, I like spending this time that we have together. Though we may not have met yet, I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. And I just ask if you can leave a rating, so this way more people can discover the show. Because the bigger the Disney family, the better. That Walt believed in that. I believe in that. Go to iTunes, leave a rating. We have all 5-star reviews right now, which I'm truly blessed to be able to say that. Please, do your part. Leave us a review on there. You could just go on, leave us 5 stars, whatever you feel or feels appropriate. I'd love it if it was 5 stars. If you also want to leave a written review, you can do that too. And hey, I may read it on the show too. But if anything, you just go on, leave the stars, and while you're at it, also consider becoming a subscriber. Subscribe to the show. This way you always know when I post new episodes. Or while you're at it, consider also becoming a premium subscriber to the show. You can do this over at anchor.fm/DisneyMarvel/support. Or you can find our Patreon page, which the link is in the show notes, where you can get some cool Disney stuff and help the show out. Keep the lights on, help us get stuff to do reviews and whatnot. Hey, whatever you're facing out there, no matter how difficult, how impossible things may seem right now. And my goodness, things, just keep coming at us. Don't give up. We're strong. We can all get through this. And you can get through this. You're not alone. And there is a light within you that you need to grab a hold of and let it shine, because that light will guide you. Let it fill the dark, cold voids with warmth and love and light. And that's what's going to get you through. Don't worry about what other people say. Don't worry what other people are thinking. That's not important. The important part is you. You are what matters. And you too can get through this. Be your own hero. Never give up. Never give in. And I want to end this week's show with a quote from Walt Disney himself. In this volatile business of ours, we can ill afford to rest on our laurels, even to pause in retrospect. Time and conditions change so rapidly that we must keep our aim constantly focused on the future. Again, that's from Walt Disney. Thank you again, everyone, for listening, and I'll see you next time.